Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel where we dive deep into the world of coins, collectibles, and the surprises, and sometimes the smallest coin in your pocket can hold an incredible story. Among these hidden treasures is the 1976 Lincoln Cent, a coin that millions of people have seen but very few have truly understood. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary penny, the same kind that often ends up forgotten in drawers or lost between couch cushions. But for collectors and historians, certain examples of this coin carry fascinating history and the potential for remarkable value. 1976 Lincoln Cent was produced during a special year in American history. That year marked the bicentennial celebration of the United States, 200 years after the country declared independence. While many coins received special commemorative designs during that time, the Lincoln Cent kept its familiar look. On the front appears the portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, a design created by sculptor Victor David Brenner, and first introduced in 1909. Most of the 1976 Lincoln Cents were struck in enormous numbers, especially at the Philadelphia Mint. Coins made there typically carried no mint mark at the time, which is why many 1976 pennies appear blank beneath the date. Because so many were produced, the average coin from that year is still very common today. In everyday circulation, these coins were simply used to buy small items and were rarely considered anything special. However, in the fascinating world of coin collecting, rarity is everything. While most 1976 pennies are worth only a small amount, certain unusual examples have drawn serious attention. Coins that show striking errors, unusual metal compositions, or extremely well-preserved surfaces can become highly desirable. Collectors often search through rolls of old coins hopping to discover one of these hidden varieties. Some stories circulate about rare pennies from different years selling for astonishing prices. These cases usually involve unique circumstances, such as minting mistakes or extremely rare experimental metals. When a coin combines rarity, historical interest, and excellent condition, collectors may compete fiercely to own it. This competition can push prices far beyond the coin's original 1 cent value. For the 1976 Lincoln Cent specifically, the most valuable examples tend to be those preserved in nearly perfect condition. Coins that were never circulated, often called mint-state coins, can appear almost exactly as they did when they left the mint. Their surfaces shine with bright copper color and their details remain crisp and sharp. Because many pennies were heavily used, finding such well-preserved pieces decades later can be surprisingly difficult. Another factor that attracts collectors is the possibility of minting errors. During the production process, machines occasionally strike coins incorrectly. A coin might be slightly off-center, double-struck, or show unusual impressions from the dies used to stamp the design. These errors transform an ordinary coin into something unique, and collectors often view them as pieces of minting history. Copper also plays an important role in the story of older pennies. During the 1970s, Lincoln cents were still primarily made of copper. The rich reddish color of fresh copper coins often fades over time as the metal reacts with the environment. When collectors find a coin that has kept its original luster, it becomes especially appealing because it represents a small preserved moment from the past. It is important to remember that claims about coins being worth millions of dollars are often exaggerated. In reality, most 1976 Lincoln cents sell for only modest amounts unless they possess something truly extraordinary. Professional grading services evaluate coins carefully, studying their condition, authenticity, and rarity before assigning them a value. This process helps collectors understand what a coin is genuinely worth in the market. Still, the excitement of searching for valuable coins keeps collectors fascinated year after year. People examine jars of old pennies, check inherited coin collections, and even study pocket change with curiosity. The idea that a tiny copper coin could hold unexpected value captures the imagination of beginners and experienced collectors alike. The 1976 Lincoln cent also carries cultural significance beyond its potential price. It represents a moment in American history when the nation celebrated 2 centuries of independence. Millions of these coins passed through the hands of people buying groceries, riding buses, or saving spare change. Each coin silently witnessed everyday life during that memorable year. For young collectors especially, coins like the 1976 penny serve as an introduction to history and discovery. A simple coin can inspire someone to learn about minting techniques, historical events, and the stories behind famous figures like Abraham Lincoln. Over time, what begins as curiosity can grow into a lifelong hobby filled with learning and exploration. In the end, the true value of a coin is not always measured in dollars. Sometimes its worth lies in the history it represents and the excitement of the search itself. The 1976 Lincoln cent may look ordinary, but us that even the smallest objects can carry stories from the past. For collectors and dreamers alike, that humble penny continues to spark curiosity, imagination, and the thrill of discovery. The next up top two, the story of the 1982 Lincoln cent begins during a difficult moment in American economic history. In the early 1980s, copper prices were rising so quickly that the metal inside a penny was almost worth more than the coin itself. The United States Mint faced a serious problem. If copper kept getting more expensive, producing pennies would cost more than their actual value. To solve this, the mint decided to change the metal composition of the penny during the year 1982. This decision created one of the most fascinating chapters in modern coin collecting. For decades before 1982, the Lincoln cent had been made mostly of copper. These coins had a warm reddish color and a solid weight that collectors loved. But when the mint changed the composition in 1982, the new pennies were made from a zinc core coated with a thin layer of copper. The result was a coin that looked similar but was much lighter. This transition created a situation where two completely different types of pennies were produced in the same year. Because the change happened in the middle of the year, the mint produced several different variations of the 1982 Lincoln cent. Some were struck with the older copper composition, while others used the new zinc planchets. In addition to the metal change, the mint also modified the size of the date on the coin's design. That means collectors today recognize multiple varieties of 1982 pennies based on metal composition, mint location, and the style of the date. One of the most interesting aspects of the 1982 penny is the absence or presence of a mint mark. Coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint traditionally did not carry a mint mark during that period. As a result, a 1982 penny without a mint mark was likely produced in Philadelphia. Other coins from the same year were struck at the Denver Mint and include a small D under the date. These differences help collectors identify where the coin was made. Among all the variations of 1982 pennies, one variety stands above the rest in rarity and excitement. This is the famous 1982 D small date copper penny. According to numismatic history, the Denver Mint was supposed to strike only zinc pennies with the small date design. However, a tiny number of copper planchets were apparently used by mistake. That unexpected combination created one of the most talked about coins in modern collecting. When collectors discovered this rare coin decades later, it caused a wave of excitement across the coin collecting community. The coin looks ordinary at first glance, but careful examination reveals its secret. The small date style combined with the heavier copper composition makes it stand out. When weighed on a precise scale, it measures about 3.1 grams, while the zinc version weighs only about 2.5 grams. Because so few of these coins exist, their value skyrocketed. One verified example sold at auction for tens of thousands of dollars. In the world of numismatics, a rare error coin can sometimes reach extraordinary prices depending on condition, rarity, and demand among collectors. Stories of valuable pennies often inspire people to check their pocket change and old coin jars. However, it is important to understand that not every 1982 penny is extremely valuable. In fact, millions and millions were produced that year. Most of them are worth only a few cents or perhaps a small premium to collectors. The true value comes from very specific varieties, especially those with unusual combinations of design and metal composition. Collectors who search for these coins usually start by examining the date style. The small date and large date versions have subtle differences in how the numbers appear. After identifying the date style, the next step is checking the weight. A simple digital scale can reveal whether the coin is made of copper or zinc, which is a key factor in determining rarity. Another important factor in coin value is condition. A coin that has been heavily circulated will show scratches, dull surfaces, and worn details. But a coin preserved in excellent condition, with sharp details and original shine, can be worth much more. Professional grading companies often certify rare coins and assign them a grade that helps collectors determine their market value. The fascination with the 1982 Lincoln cent shows how even the smallest objects in everyday life can carry remarkable stories. A simple penny might seem insignificant, but behind it lies a history of economic challenges, minting decisions, and accidental rarities. These factors transform an ordinary coin into a piece of American history. Today, collectors around the world continue to search for unusual 1982 pennies. Some examine old coin rolls from banks, while others explore inherited collections from family members. The excitement of possibly discovering a rare variety keeps the hobby alive and thriving. In the end, the 1982 Lincoln cent reminds us that hidden treasures sometimes appear in the most ordinary places. While finding a rare example is extremely unlikely, the possibility sparks curiosity and excitement. Every coin tells a story, and sometimes that story turns a humble penny into one of the most fascinating collectibles in modern numismatic history. The next up, top 3, the small copper coin you see in your hand might look ordinary, something people usually ignore or even leave behind in change. Yet hidden inside some of these coins is a story that stretches across decades of American history. The 1980 Lincoln cent is one of those coins that quietly traveled through millions of hands, passing from pocket to pocket without anyone realizing that a few rare examples could be worth far more than their tiny face value. For collectors and coin hunters, this humble 1-cent piece represents a fascinating journey through time, craftsmanship, and the unexpected treasures that sometimes hide in plain sight. The Lincoln cent itself first appeared in 1909 to celebrate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. It was the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure instead of symbolic designs. On the front, the portrait of Abraham Lincoln faces right, calm, and thoughtful, while the reverse design for many years displayed the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. That famous memorial design remained on the coin for decades, including the year 1980. Making these coins instantly recognizable to anyone who has ever handled American currency. When the 1980 Lincoln cent was produced, millions upon millions were struck by the United States Mint. Most of them came from the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally did not place a mint mark on its coins at that time. Other versions were produced at the Denver Mint with a small D mint mark. Even though the total number minted was extremely large, collectors still pay attention to coins from this year because within massive production runs there are sometimes small variations, rare conditions, or minting mistakes that make certain pieces much more interesting. The metal composition of the 1980 penny is also part of its story. These coins were made mostly of copper with a small amount of zinc, giving them that warm reddish-brown color many collectors love. The weight, shine, and feel of the coin reflect the traditional copper-based pennies that were common before the big composition change that happened just 2 years later in 1982. Because of this, many collectors appreciate pre-1982 pennies for their higher copper content and classic appearance. Although most 1980 pennies are common, collectors always look closely for something unusual. Tiny minting errors, double strikes, off-center images, or unusual surfaces can transform an ordinary coin into a collector's prize. Sometimes the difference is so small that only careful observation reveals it. A coin that left the mint with a slight mistake or unique feature might become a special piece years later when collectors discover it. Condition is another powerful factor that can increase a coin's value dramatically. Coins that were never circulated, meaning they never spent time in everyday use, can remain bright and sharply detailed. These are called mint state coins. The Lincoln Memorial on the back, the fine lines in Lincoln's hair, and the crisp lettering all appear clearer on well-preserved examples. Because most coins from 1980 circulated heavily, finding one in nearly perfect condition can be exciting for collectors. Professional coin grading services often evaluate these coins using a numerical scale that measures preservation and quality. Higher grades mean sharper details, fewer marks, and stronger luster. A coin graded at the very top of this scale becomes much more desirable among collectors who search for the best surviving examples of each year. Even though the coin itself is small, its quality can make a big difference in how collectors value it. Another fascinating part of coin collecting is the thrill of discovery. Many collectors began their journey simply by checking the coins they already had in jars, drawers, or old collections. A penny that once seemed ordinary might suddenly become interesting after a closer inspection. That feeling of possibly holding a rare piece of history in your hand is what keeps people searching through their spare change. However, it is important to remember that stories about coins being worth millions overnight are usually exaggerated. While rare coins can certainly become very valuable, the true value depends on verified rarity, historical significance, and certified condition. The 1980 Lincoln cent is historically real and interesting, but most examples are still worth close to their face value unless they have exceptional quality or unusual mint errors. Even so, every coin carries a story beyond its price. A 1980 penny may have traveled through stores, banks, pockets, and collections across many decades. It may have been used by people who never thought twice about it, yet today it can spark curiosity and interest in history. Holding a coin like this is like holding a small piece of everyday life from another era. For young collectors especially, coins like the 1980 Lincoln cent can be the starting point of a lifelong hobby. Learning about mint marks, metal compositions, designs, and grading can turn a simple coin into a doorway to history and knowledge. Many experienced collectors today began exactly this way, examining ordinary coins and gradually discovering the deeper stories behind them. Coin collecting also teaches patience and observation. Instead of rushing past everyday objects, collectors slow down and study the details that others might miss. The shape of a letter, the shine of the metal, or the smallest difference in design can reveal something important. In this way, even the simplest coin can become an exciting puzzle waiting to be solved. So the next time you see a penny, remember that it is more than just a 1-cent piece. The 1980 Lincoln cent represents decades of history, craftsmanship from the United States Mint, and the curiosity of collectors who search for hidden treasures. While it may not instantly turn someone into a billionaire, it still holds a special place in the story of American coins and reminds us that sometimes the most ordinary objects can carry the most fascinating stories. The next up, top 4. The story of rare coins is filled with excitement, mystery, and sometimes unbelievable fortune. Among everyday coins that pass through millions of hands, a few pieces quietly hide extraordinary value. One coin that often sparks curiosity among collectors is the 1996 Lincoln Cent, especially those struck at the Denver Mint with the small D mint mark. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary penny, the same copper-colored coin many people carry in their pockets every day. Yet for coin hunters and collectors, even a simple penny can become a thrilling discovery, because certain rare variations and minting mistakes can transform an ordinary coin into something highly valuable. The Lincoln Cent itself has a long and respected history in American coinage. It was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. This coin was the first regular United States coin to feature a real historical figure rather than a symbolic design. The portrait of Lincoln on the front was created by sculptor Victor David Brenner, and the design quickly became one of the most recognizable coins in the world. Over the decades, billions of Lincoln cents have been produced, but only a tiny number develop the special characteristics that collectors dream about finding. By 1996, the Lincoln cent had already been circulating for nearly 90 years. That year, the United States Mint produced billions of pennies across different mint locations, including the Denver Mint. Coins from Denver are identified by the small D mint mark placed just below the year on the coin. Most of these pennies were made from copper-plated zinc, a metal composition that the mint adopted in 1982 to reduce production costs. Although the coin appears copper in color, the actual metal inside is mostly zinc with a thin copper coating on the surface. Because so many 1996 D pennies were produced, the majority of them remain worth only 1 cent in everyday circulation. However, collectors do not simply look at a coin's year and mint mark. They carefully examine the coin's condition, surface quality, strike, and possible mint errors. In the world of numismatics, the study and collecting of coins, even a small mistake during the minting process can make a coin incredibly interesting. Errors such as doubled letters, off-center strikes, or unusual metal mixtures can turn a common coin into a prized collectible. Condition also plays a powerful role in determining a coin's value. A penny that has spent years circulating through pockets and cash registers usually shows scratches, wear, and fading. But a coin that somehow remains untouched, preserved in what collectors call mint state, can appear almost exactly as it did the moment it left the mint. These pristine coins are graded by professional services using a numerical scale, and the highest graded examples often attract strong interest from collectors around the world. When people hear stories about pennies worth thousands or even millions of dollars, those stories usually come from extremely rare coins with unique histories. Famous examples include coins like the 1943 copper Lincoln cent or the 1955 double-die penny. These coins became legendary because they were produced by mistake, and only a few authentic pieces are known to exist. When such coins appear at major auctions, collectors compete intensely to own them, pushing prices higher and higher. For a 1996 D Lincoln cent to reach extraordinary value, it would likely need to possess something extremely unusual, perhaps a dramatic mint error or an incredibly perfect condition that almost no other coin from that year has achieved. Coins with dramatic errors sometimes sell for hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on their rarity. The excitement of searching for such coins is what motivates many collectors to carefully examine every penny they encounter. Another fascinating aspect of coin collecting is the thrill of discovery. Many valuable coins were not discovered by professional experts, but by ordinary people looking through their spare change. Someone might open an old jar of pennies, inherited from a family member, and suddenly notice something strange about one coin. That moment of curiosity can lead to research, examination under magnification, and sometimes the surprising realization that the coin may be rare. The copper appearance of the 1996 D penny can also lead people to wonder whether some coins were struck on unusual metal planchets. Although the standard composition is copper-plated zinc, collectors always stay alert for the possibility that a coin might have been struck on the wrong metal blank by mistake. Such mint errors are rare, but historically they have happened, and when they do, they often become highly collectible. Still, it is important to understand that most 1996 D pennies remain common coins. The dream of discovering a fortune in pocket change is exciting, but true million-dollar coins are extremely rare and usually well documented in numismatic history. Professional coin grading services and experienced dealers carefully authenticate coins before they are recognized as valuable. This protects collectors and ensures that genuine rarities are correctly identified. Even when a coin is not worth a fortune, collecting pennies can still be an enjoyable and educational hobby. Each coin represents a small piece of history, reflecting the year it was made, the technology used by the mint, and the journey it may have taken through countless hands. For many collectors, the real reward comes not only from value but from the thrill of learning and the excitement of the hunt. The possibility that a small coin might hold unexpected value keeps people searching through their change every day. A penny lying unnoticed in a jar today could spark curiosity tomorrow, and that curiosity might lead someone into the fascinating world of coin collecting. While most coins remain ordinary, the rare exceptions remind us that history sometimes hides extraordinary surprises in the smallest objects. So if you ever come across a 1996 D. Lincoln cent, take a moment to examine it carefully. Look at the mint mark, the condition, and any unusual details that might make it stand out. Even if it turns out to be a simple penny, the act of searching connects you to a tradition shared by collectors around the world, people who know that sometimes the most ordinary coin can tell an extraordinary story.